I have the honor and pleasure today of introducing Brad Young. Brad is a director of consulting in our Ohio office and has an extensive background in SharePoint and Power Platforms. He's known for a strategic approach to building solutions for collaboration sites that provide document management, business process integration, and all sorts of data from external sources. His expertise includes developing multiple document management solutions for complex project approval processes, something near and dear to my heart, and integrating business data to improve effectiveness in multiple organizations. He's worked to transform collaboration sites from mere document repositories into dynamic tools with effective communication and streamlined processes. This is absolutely something that I find fascinating. This is something that we're finding a lot of different customers and a lot of different companies are moving towards. And I cannot wait to take this next hour to learn all about his experience. So without further ado, let me turn the presentation over to Brad.
Thank you, Emily. Yes, so today we're going to be talking about the Business Transformation Series, integrating Power Platform in your collaboration environment. Let's start with a little background about myself. So as Emily said, I'm the Director of Consulting at Improving out of the Ohio branch. I've been a solution architect for many years, focused a lot on the Power Platform, SharePoint, Microsoft Office 365, and Azure. So kind of cobbling all those technologies together and kind of building solutions for our customers. Obviously trying to kind of drive as much business value as possible for our customers in those areas. In addition to some of the collaborative projects that I've been doing, also kind of working on some governance, Power Platform, and customizations of the COE toolkit. So that's a kind of tool that allows organizations to get an understanding of all the Power Platform components that are in their environment. Also integrating territory account management, integrating with third-party systems, and kind of building out a hierarchy of ownerships of accounts. And then building rapid applications for line of business solutions. So utilizing SharePoint to kind of gather policy information to integrate different enterprise systems, accessing APIs and document generations and things of that sort. So this is the second session of our business transformation series, Lunch and Learns, that we're putting together. Bill did a great job on the one last week on September 4th, showcasing the power of low-code, no-code frameworks for business transformations. And that video is out there on our Improving Thoughts webinars site. Today I'm going to be, talking about, today's fast-paced work environments. Collaboration sites are, a lot of times becoming just document repositories, and we're not using the full potential of those to get the most teamwork and productivity out of them. So hopefully I can kind of show you how you can kind of get a little bit more out of those collaboration sites and demonstrate a few ways that you can kind of do some of those capabilities. Next week, Sean Antonello is going to be showcasing the leveraging SAP low-code automation to simplify your daily activities. So this is one that's going to kind of showcase how you can kind of use SAP and drive some AI-driven platform around their SAP Joule capabilities. And then lastly, at the end of the month on the 25th, Rob Usalak is going to be showcasing the using low-code with AI to tackle some of the knowledge management issues and taking that to the next level. So for today's talk, our agenda is going to kind of focus on a few areas. I'm going to first talk about the Power Platform, what it is, and some of the different components of it, and then getting into collaboration sites and how they're kind of used today, and then some of the ways that we can enhance those collaboration sites and focus on the Power Platform to enable some of those transformations. Then we're going to kind of talk about some ways to kind of leverage automation and apps in those collaboration sites, and then how we can kind of integrate data in. So a lot of apps, we have data in different disparate areas, and some of that data can be used effectively on search and other capabilities. So how can we get that data in to do that? And then we're going to do a little demo, showcase a couple different scenarios and kind of see how those work, and hopefully give you a little understanding of how you can make some of that stuff happen. And then lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the governance, just to help you a little bit understand some of the capabilities or things or risks that may be available within the platform. All right, so Power Platform is kind of a suite of applications. It's actually made up of multiple applications. So there's a Power Apps, which is kind of used to kind of building apps, custom apps, and doing things with. Power Automate is for generating workflows or automating tasks. And Power BI is the data visualization and the business intelligence behind that data, and you know, helping you understand business problems and looking at ways to kind of solve those. Virtual agents was another one that was kind of part of the platform. It's now kind of pulled into Microsoft Copilot Studio, so you can kind of do chatbots and things like that in that area as well. So I want to kind of showcase the Power Platform is kind of one of the centerpieces around the entire platform. So the integration within Microsoft Office 365, all your kind of office tools and things like that, Dynamics 365, so ways to your CRM, customer relationship management, interactions and data, and kind of sits on that platform, utilizing Azure as a kind of a back-end source to kind of handle some of the authentication, and also kind of integration with machine learning and Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps can allow you to actually make custom solutions or allow you to deploy your custom solutions across different environments, so you can kind of set up things for testing and deployments, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about Power Apps. Power Apps are basically, there's like 4 different types of Power Apps that you can kind of create. A SharePoint custom form, so that's one that where you're in the SharePoint environment and you want to customize the form on a SharePoint list or a document library. So when you go in there and do that, it's actually creating a SharePoint custom form, which is similar to a Canvas app, but it's kind of contained in that default environment. The Canvas app allows you to kind of do highly customized app building with a drag and drop interface and various connections to different data sources, similar to the custom form. On the SharePoint custom form, you can do that as well. And the Canvas apps in SharePoint custom forms allow you to do a lot of control the app's appearance and behavior, so you can kind of manipulate them as you kind of need. Whereas on the model-driven apps, this is more of a data and a process focus, and it's all geared towards the Dataverse. The Dataverse is, you know, a common data store for the Power Platform, so you can kind of pull data in it, and it kind of sits and holds that data there as well. Gives you kind of way to integrate it. The model-driven app is little less customizable, but you're kind of usually more like where you normally get like a CRM is built on that, is basically a model-driven app if you've ever kind of used that. Lastly, there's Power Pages. These are externally facing sites, so it allows you to kind of allow external users to kind of come in, and you can bundle your kind of licenses around that. So those are kind of the three. We're going to focus more on the SharePoint custom forms and the Canvas app for this presentation, since those are the ones that interact a little bit better with the collaboration sites. Power Automate type. So as with Power Apps, there's some different types of Power Automates flows. The first one is the automated. This is kind of triggered on an event. So if you're like receiving an email, or if you add a document to a list, those are what those are. They kind of fire on those types of scenarios. An instant flow is one where you kind of click a button. So this is one where you can actually kick off from like a Canvas app. You say, you know, when you click this button, you know, do this business process. The scheduled flows are ones that you can run at specific times, so you can kind of schedule those, and you can actually have them recurring on daily or weekly timeframes as well. Lastly, there's the desktop flows. Those flows are kind of automated tests that you actually install on your desktop, and so you can kind of interact with some of the different applications and things, and actually do kind of that automated things from there. As we kind of talked about in the automated flow, there's triggers. So the triggers are things that start the flow. Obviously, like a new email, updating a document, or adding a row to a list. Those things can kind of use to be triggered. And then there's actions. Every flow is basically starts with the trigger, and then it moves into an action. So the actions are the things that actually do the processes. So you can like copy an email, copy a document to a different library, things like that. I wanted to show, so this kind of shows a little bit more on some of the different triggers that occur. So you have, you know, item created. These are all kind of based on SharePoint, but you can have triggers from emails, OneDrive, or other things as well, or Teams. So there's a couple triggers, and then there's the actions that you do. So the like add an attachment, copy a file, create a file. Those are all things that can be done pretty simply. One other thing with Power Automate, so when you go to create a new one, there's now a bunch of templates that you can kind of utilize as well. So if you want to kind of just schedule a reply, you save a message to OneNote, so you can actually, these are kind of pre-built templates that are available when you go to create one within the Power Platform. Okay, onto collaboration sites. So typically on collaboration sites, they were kind of built, you know, way back when to do document management, right? So it's kind of a repository that you can store documents. You can do versioning, sharing, and things of that sort. Then they also kind of added in your task management, communications. You can have like calendars and events, and all things that kind of integrate in with Microsoft 365 or Teams, Outlook, and OneDrive. So trying to kind of enhance your productivity in those areas. So it's some of the challenges with collaboration sites is a lot of times it's the customization. So it's kind of a standard out of the box you don't really get a lot of stuff with it unless you spend a lot of money doing customizations and spending a lot of money kind of doing some of that development. And then if the platform changes, you got to kind of upgrade and kind of do a lot of things with that, which can be kind of difficult. Finding content, that's been kind of improved a lot over the years with search, but when you're not tagging certain documents or certain things aren't available, or if you're not adding things to them, that can be, a problem, which kind of gets into the consistent metadata, right? So if your document doesn't have some of the terms that maybe people be searching for, it may be kind of harder to find, or there might be a way to kind of consolidate or bring some of those things together. There's also kind of a lack of integration into other applications or data that may be missed in those documents as we're kind of storing those within SharePoint. Some business challenges too are, how do we kind of get the workflows to be efficient? Currently, a lot of the collaboration sites were built on, there was some workflows with them that were on SharePoint Designer or SharePoint Workflow 2010 or 2013, where some of those are being deprecated. So how do we, look to kind of get off of those so that we can kind of continue using those and those business processes don't go away. So some of the improvements we might be able to make with the Power Platform, there's can be repetitive tasks that we might want to kind of speed up or not do, so we can focus more on more productive things. Within the Power Apps, improving metadata, you can kind of create or customize your form so you can kind of do some automated things on grabbing some of that metadata. You can do more complex validations, so where you might be comparing different ones or multi-level, multi-field checks to make sure everything is kind of good. And then you can also kind of integrate data with different applications. So one of the big powers of Power Platform is their connectors, and how many of them are out there and how simple they are to use and connect the data to your apps or your Power Automates. So with Power Automate 2, a lot of times things happen when a document is added or an approval process is in place. So having triggers, so when those things happen, it automatically starts the process instead of waiting on someone to kind of start things as they go. So kind of helps avoid some human error or other things where people may have missed things, or there may be downtime or vacation or things that may affect those things as well. In addition, Teams, we can embed apps in them. We can send approval notifications and processing. So those are all ways to kind of help, to kind of get that information out there and go from there. Let's see. So the benefits of process automation. Hold on a second. Is improved efficiency, kind of reduced cost and greater accuracy. So allowing collaboration sites to kind of do this, to use Power Platform gives you an effective tool for organizations to streamline those processes, automate repetitive tasks, some of the best practices are, clearly defining those processes. So identifying your key stakeholders, and ensuring that the sites are kind of user-friendly, so you can kind of make sure kind of everything is good. Avoiding some of the human error that kind of comes into manually doing things. So with automation, you can kind of make sure everything's kind of more streamlined and the data entry is more accurate. And it can also allow you to focus on your high-value activities. So some of the considerations of the Power Platform. So you want to kind of, the benefits kind of that you're looking for is how can I increase or enhance the functionality that's out there, kind of ways to kind of improve productivity so that we can make people more effective and avoid doing some of the menial things that may impact those productivity. Provide users with tools so that they can collaborate and share easier. Right now, a lot of the sharing and stuff, there's so many different apps and stuff out there. What are people using? You can kind of allow it to kind of share things in Teams, Outlook, and all those other different ways that people kind of want to communicate. And then improving the overall collaboration experience. So how everyone kind of works together to improve their capabilities. Some of the challenges are ensuring proper integration with existing workflows and systems, kind of introducing some of the security and compliance risks. So as you're kind of opening up APIs or different data sources, making sure that it's done in the proper ways, and where the data is coming from and what it's doing. So understanding some of the challenges around the governance of apps and flows and how you want to kind of open up some of those capabilities. Some other factors that you may want to kind of consider as you're kind of putting together a solution is understanding user needs and their ease of integration. So how can we help, with those integrations and make sure we're solving what the user is kind of looking for, the business problem that is needed. Cost can sometimes be a factor, especially when you're looking at some of the different licensing that kind of comes in. So understanding what you have in a standard license versus a premium license. Certain capabilities require those premium license, and then you have those additional licensing costs. And you want to kind of prioritize the apps, as there could be a lot of them, to focus on your collaborative strategy and goals to make sure you're accomplishing those. All right, integration with data. So the Power Platform enables various data sources to connect both on-premise and in the cloud. So you can kind of set up a data gateway so you can kind of connect using your Office 365 to your on-premises data to get through connectors on those things, as well as build custom connectors to access APIs and data in different systems. There are a lot of out-of-the-box connectors, and showcase some of them here. So when you go to create a new connection, these are a lot of the standard ones. You can kind of get, your Outlook, SharePoint, Dataverse, OneDrive. So these are all kind of connectors that you can kind of just select and start using. Other ways to kind of connect with data, there's what's called data flows. This kind of gives you a extract, transform, and load of data from different sources into Dataverse or other destinations. So basically allows you to kind of pull in data from different sources, and if you need to manipulate that in any way, you can do that and then dump it in another location. Dataverse, as I said earlier, is a central data repository for Power Platform. So this you kind of use to kind of store the data, also kind of lets you manipulate and move things between different sources. And lastly, Power BI reports allows you to kind of create interactive reports and dashboards using data and from the Power Platform, but it can also kind of use data from other sources as well. All right, So I have a couple demos I'm going to do. The first one's going to be about document route approval and routing. So we're going to kind of walk through creating a document. So when we upload that document, it's going to start an approval process where it's going to send a Teams notification in the channel saying that a document was uploaded. It's going to send a notification for approval to a user and then approve it. And then once it's approved, it's going to be moved to a different site, as well as notifying the team where it's at and providing them a link. So let me. All right, hopefully everyone can see this. So I have a library here that I am going to. So I'm going to bring in, I have a document, international marketing campaigns that I am going to actually. No. All right, so I'm going to copy this one into here. And what I've done is I have a so marketing document creation. So so we'll wait for this one to kick off. And as we do, I have this user. I'm going to show you that you can kind of see she'll get emails from as well as the teams. Sometimes they take a little bit of time to kind of kick off. So within, failed. Didn't have. Let me go back and do this again. Gotta love things. Demo's not working. All right, so we'll give that a minute to get started. So one of the things that I kind of show as we kind of went through this, where did that go? So on the sales in general, so basically what we did is, oh, there we go. So the card's getting created. So let me go here. So as Megan Bowen, who's the kind of approver, she'll get a task to basically to approve this document. So when I approve it, actually, I'm going to go first back into the team to kind of show you. So basically, we kind of put in a custom comment here saying that the branding elements, so we dynamically put in the column, the name has been added and is starting the approval process. And then we also gave them a link to the site, to the document. So in case they wanted to kind of go see what that document was, they can kind of do that. And then she'll get an approval here in the work card that you can kind of go and approve. So when we approve it, it's going to go and tells you that the approval status is finalized. And actually that is kind of showing too on the original chat too. So we kind of see that these have been approved and you see what those comments are. And then you can also kind of go into here and says, now it's been moved to this site, and it gives you a link to the different site. So basically what we did is we copied it over to the global sales. And there it is. It says it was, done a minute ago. So let's kind of look at that flow a little bit to kind of understand kind of what is going on here. So this allows you to actually kind of go in and kind of look at a flow as it's run, and you can kind of see each one of them that has, whether they succeeded or not, and it'll give you a red X if it fails. But we basically kind of come in. So some of the things, you're getting your profile. So that's the profile of the user that kind of entered it. We're posting to a channel, creating that approval. So this is what sends out that approval. And then we post that adaptive card in the team site. Wait for approval is waiting for that user to kind of come through and do that. Once they approve, we have whether it's a kind of a true or false condition. And then we, process those off of there. So since it was approved, it ignores the rejected side and processes, sending a message to the bot saying that this is what you responded to, and then copying the file to the different locations. So you kind of see it came in from the sales and marketing site and was copied over to the global site. Okay. So the second thing I was going to show is kind of integration data from Dataverse to a document. So in this scenario, go to the so we have a site here, and what we can do is we can go in and create a custom form. So this opens up kind of a SharePoint custom form, which is basically a Canvas app that you can kind of utilize and do some kind of unique integrations and validations on. Okay, so I've already done a few customizations on it. So one of the first things I did is I added data from the Dataverse. So to do that, it's simply, add data, and it kind of lists out some of the tables that you have there. So I had selected account, and that's why that one's kind of showing up here. And then it adds them in here. Once you do that, it's now available to kind of use within your app. So what I did is I created, so this is basically coming through and it is integrated in with your documents. You have a SharePoint form, which is basically kind of the document, and seeing that it's integrated with SharePoint, it's actually dealing with the specific item that you're on. So the data source is the documents, which is our document library. And then the fields are title. I added account name and account number. Those are two custom fields that I've added to the library. And then I went ahead and added a custom card, which is you can kind of do by that, and I'll create them on the bottom, and then you can add columns and stuff to it. So what I was doing with this is I was actually creating this account. So I want to do a lookup into my Dataverse and then bring back the data for the account name and number and store that on the document library. So in my items, you can simply just type accounts, and that'll actually populate it out. Because I wanted to kind of have it sorted to make it easier, I did a sort by columns accounts, and I sorted it by the name column. So that's why it kind of is showing up like that. Some of the things I had to do to get it to kind of populate. So I did a on change event here. And what I'm doing is I'm setting the these two fields, to the account name and account number. So by setting those values, you use variables and kind of set those across. So on this, I'm basically saying, show me the account name if it's empty. If it's not empty, I'll show the account name. Otherwise, I'll use the field value for that specific document library. So if it's blank, it'll probably come back in blank. But by doing that, it kind of sets each of these values when you select it. So if I go back over in here, and edit this one, I can kind of select my different one, and it'll bring in and change those different account numbers. So if we want to change this to Fourth Coffee and save, you'll see that these actually came through and kind of are set up with Fourth Coffee and that instead of the original ones. So it's kind of a way to kind of quickly go ahead and pull in that information. So, and if I wanted to change it again, let's change it back because it's supposed to be Alpine. It switches those back and we're kind of good to go. Okay, lastly, I wanted to kind of show kind of a routing document based on the file name. So one of the things I did on that library is I have another workflow. So when I drop in a file in here, it's gonna go up and look up that account. So I got Adventure Works here. So I'm gonna drop this Adventure Works document into here, and then we have another flow. That is going to process those. So one of the things, I don't know if you notice, I'm using a solutions. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it's kind of used to kind of keep everything together and allow you to kind of go from different environments. Currently with SharePoint, everything goes to the default environment. So it's not processing yet. There we go. So as it's running, you can kind of see how it's going and where it's at in the process. As you can see here, it's kind of going out. It's created the folder. Um, it's starting to kind of move it into that folder. And then we're actually going to do a lookup into the Dataverse to kind of pull in that information. So we're basically looking up where the customer name equals AdventureWorks. So what we did is we split off the name up here. So we have the full name here, and then we actually split that in, and we're using, you know, the AdventureWorks for our things down the road. And then we're basically just basically updates the properties. So you're patching that account name. So if we go back to our things, now we have that document's not there anymore. It's kind of moved into the AdventureWorks folder. And if we kind of look at it, looks like the account number came in, but not the name. But it kind of gives you that understanding of kind of what happens there. Okay. Okay. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about Power Platform governance. So as I kind of said during the demo, the SharePoint environment, there's a default environment that basically your Office 365 and SharePoint use. So as, actually, maybe I'll even go back to, so when you're making changes and doing things, there is up here, it kind of tells you your environment. So some organizations can have many, but there's always one created initially, and that is your default environment, and it'll say default on it. So your SharePoint environment, whenever you create a workflow or a Power App in that environment, or in SharePoint or integrated, it'll actually put it in that environment. So one of the things you want to kind of understand is where should all these things be used. So organizations need to kind of plan how they want to kind of do environments. Do they want to have dev, test, prod? Do they want to just have everything in the default environment? So understanding where those are and how those are being used. And then as you're doing them, what environment should you be using? So as a part of that, solutions are kind of used to kind of build and deploy those artifacts between different environments. So one of the reasons why I did it in a solution, I can then do a pipeline to kind of push it to a dev or to a test or prod environment. And I don't really have to do a lot of stuff with it once it's there. They do have some things called environment variables and other things to kind of help with that. So as you kind of go to a different environment, you can have it point to a different SharePoint list, and you can define SharePoint sites and lists within those environment variables. To do those pushes, pipelines are kind of used. They have some automated ones that are kind of in place now that you can kind of just click and kind of go through. But there's also kind of ways to do either DevOps or other way, or export and import of those solutions into those different environments. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about DLP policies. So DLP policies are kind of used to kind of restrict or manage the different connections that are available in those different environments. So sometimes you may find out your organization may have kind of removed some of the connectors from certain environments. Like they may not let you do a HTTP request because they don't want to expose everything to the internet and some things like that. So there can be restrictors and things that you can kind of put in. These DLP policies can be applied at the tenant or environment level. And there's also ways to kind of say what connectors can talk to each other. So if they're all in the same business or non-business block, they can be used to talk to each other, but otherwise they are kind of restricted. All right. In conclusion, wanted to kind of talk through the Power Platform. Hopefully I showed ways that you can kind of enhance functionality and productivity, and kind of some of the different ways you might be able to kind of utilize these tools to kind of improve processes and automation and streamline approvals and data entry, so you can kind of focus more on higher value tasks and kind of working through those things. Some next steps, review training, kind of understanding your current licensing may be kind of helpful too. So as you're kind of going through and, what can you have access to, what can't you? So those are kind of things that can be useful. Review training, I think Microsoft Learn has a lot of different opportunities there, both from both technical and capabilities, as well as kind of utilizing YouTube or other places that you can kind of find information on it. I think if you can identify some processes that you may want to solve with the business Power Platform, and then look at ways that you might be able to kind of start using it. So, go ahead, try it out, have fun, just kind of creating things. A lot of them are pretty simple and you kind of do it off the template. And then it gives you kind of ways to kind of, go forward next. I appreciate the time talking. Emily, were there any questions or anyone had?
No, you did a fantastic job. I don't think anyone had any questions right now, but thank you for sharing your contact information for us. And we'd like to encourage you, whether you're watching live or rewatching this as an online video, if you've been inspired or are interested in trying out any of these items or using Power Platform by on your own environment, go ahead and reach out to Brad. I'm sure he'd be happy to take the conversation over Improving or LinkedIn or wherever you may be able to connect with him. I am so excited that you were able to give this presentation. Like I said, this is something that I work a lot in my space, and I know it is becoming more and more popular with different organizations. So, Brad, thank you so much for giving your time on this presentation and your lunch hour with us so we could continue to learn more.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
That
And
was
to all
fun.
our attendees, thank you for coming. I'm so glad you were able to dedicate a lunch hour to learning more about Power Platforms and Power Automate and low code solutions. As noted, this is just one of a couple different talks we have on business process transformation. And you can join us again next week on September 18th, same time at 12 p.m. Central, to learn a little bit more from Sean Antonello. We'll be focusing on leveraging SAP low-code automation to simplify your daily activities. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining today and have a fantastic rest of your day.